Story 1. A few years ago, I worked at a large department store and commuted by car. One morning, my old car broke down, so I had to take a ride-sharing service to work. Being short on money, I needed to wait for my next paycheck to fix it. At work, I mentioned my car trouble to a coworker, Tiffany. We weren't close, but we sometimes chatted. She seemed friendly and offered me the use of her and her boyfriend's spare car until mine was repaired. I was hesitant, feeling it was a significant favor from someone who wasn't a close friend, but Tiffany insisted, saying they never used the car. I even offered to pay, but she refused, seeming genuinely eager to help. I finally accepted, and she agreed to drive me to the car after work. That evening, Tiffany drove me to a somewhat rundown house on the other side of town. She mentioned the car was old but ran well, which was fine with me as long as it worked. I was very grateful. She gave me the keys, and I drove the orange Mercedes-Benz S500 with custom wheels home. It felt strange driving such a car, but having transportation was good. The next day, I drove it to work. However, after leaving work that evening, I noticed a car following me. It was strange. On a main street, a car came very close behind me. When I moved to the right to let it pass, it didn't and continued to follow. It became clear they were intentionally following me, but I didn't know why. I kept driving towards my apartment and was lucky to pass a parked police car. Before I reached it, the car behind me turned onto another street. The police car seemed unoccupied. I made it home safely but wondered why I'd been followed. A few nights later, the same thing happened again shortly after I left work. A car got right behind me and followed me closely. Confused, I drove most of the way home with them right behind me. They even flashed their brights a few times. When I reached my street, I didn't initially turn, but saw the car go down another road. Thinking they had given up, I turned onto my street and into my apartment parking lot. As I was about to park, the headlights returned. The car sped down the street towards me. I quickly parked, got out, and ran towards my apartment. I heard the car enter the parking lot as I ran inside. Looking out the window, I saw a man run to the building doors and try to enter, but thankfully they were locked. He started yelling and cursing. I called 911. I was confused about why this man seemed to be after me. I didn't know him. The man paced outside, occasionally yelling. The police arrived about 5 minutes later and spoke with him. Later, an officer told me the man claimed he was confused and thought he knew me. He was allowed to leave. After speaking more with the police, who saw the car I was driving, I learned that Tiffany's boyfriend was a known drug dealer. He had likely upset the wrong people, and they were after him. Tiffany must have given me the car to get rid of it. That night, I contacted Tiffany, explained what happened, and said I was returning the car. She didn't respond for a long time, but finally said okay the next day. I returned the car and used ride-sharing services until I got my car fixed. Eventually, I got a new job. Tiffany stopped showing up for work not long after. I never fully understood what happened with the car and the man after it, but I hoped everything turned out okay. Story 2. When I was young, I drove an old car from the 90s with high mileage and a rough engine. It sometimes struggled to start, but usually would after a few tries. I bought it cheaply and didn't know much about its problems. It never left me stranded until one evening. I worked late and was driving home, about 20 minutes from my apartment in a quieter area. About 10 minutes from home, my car started to die and stopped on a road surrounded by woods. It was around 11 p.m., and I hadn't seen another car. I tried starting it again, but nothing happened. I called my roommate, Maggie, who was still awake and said she'd come get me. I popped the hood and looked at the engine, pretending I knew something about cars. As I did, I saw a car approaching. For some reason, I felt uneasy. It slowed down and stopped beside me. A man in his 50s with a beard and long hair rolled down the window and offered me a ride. I declined, saying my roommate was coming. He insisted it was late and I shouldn't be out alone. I reassured him. The man seemed odd. He rolled up his window and drove a little ahead, then pulled over again. Seeing him stop again gave me a bad feeling. I considered running back to my car to try starting it, but I didn't. I just stood by the hood, thinking maybe I was wrong about him. He got out and walked towards me, stopping about 5 feet away to look at my engine without saying anything. The silence was awkward. I wanted to tell him to go away, but instead asked if he knew much about cars. He simply said no. I hoped Maggie would arrive soon. The man moved closer and suggested we get going. I reiterated that I didn't need a ride, closed my hood, and started walking towards my car door. He followed closely. Just then, I saw headlights in the distance and hoped it was Maggie. I didn't get in my car but looked at the road. The man was standing uncomfortably close. As the car approached, I recognized Maggie's car. I ran towards her. The man didn't follow. Maggie saw me running and stopped. I jumped into the passenger seat. She didn't know what was happening. As we faced the man, I saw him walking back to his car. I told Maggie to make a U-turn. She had to back up on the narrow road. I watched the man get into his car. Maggie turned around, and we drove off quickly. I told her to turn at the first opportunity, and we drove around randomly while I explained everything. Luckily, the man didn't find us. We went home later. I called for a tow truck. This incident convinced me to get a new car soon after. Story 3. Something bizarre happened to me recently. One Saturday morning, I went to the store for groceries. I work a regular office job during the week, and Friday had been normal. I live in a small house in a busy neighborhood and park my car on the street because I don't have a driveway. Other people parked there too. I left my house and noticed my windshield wipers were gone. It was a sunny day, but it had rained the previous night, and my car was under a tree, so there was water on the windshield. I tried to turn on the wipers, but they were broken off. It looked like someone had snapped them. I was angry, thinking some neighborhood vandal was doing this. I got out and looked closer, then checked other cars on the street, which still had their wipers. It seemed I was targeted. I needed new wipers, so before going to the store, I drove to an auto parts store. It wasn't busy. I found the aisle and started looking for the right wipers for my car. A couple of minutes later, I heard someone enter and walk towards me, but I didn't pay attention. Then, this person stood very close, and I turned around. It was a woman holding windshield wipers. She said, "Looking for these," then slammed them on the ground and stormed out. I couldn't believe it. This woman must have stolen my wipers, but I didn't recognize her or know why. I picked up the wipers, they were mine. I went to the front, the woman was gone. I heard a car drive away and saw a white sedan leaving the parking lot. The employee at the counter joked, "Girl problems." I told him my story. He thought she was an ex or something and seemed amused. I bought new wipers, installed them, and continued my shopping. I tried to figure out why the woman stole them and how she found me at the auto parts store. Maybe I had upset her while driving home the previous day during rush hour, even though I consider myself a good driver. I couldn't recall doing anything unusual. That might explain the stolen wipers, but how did she know where I was? Did she wait all night and follow me? That seemed unlikely, but somehow she knew. I haven't seen her since and hope nothing like that happens again. Story 4. This is the craziest and scariest thing that's ever happened to me. My name is Jenna. At the time, my old car was having some issues, but nothing major had ever gone wrong with it. I lived alone in an apartment. Nearby, I often saw a small auto repair shop in a residential area. It looked like a small garage with an old sign. When my car started having problems, I thought this place might be cheaper than a larger shop and less likely to scam me. I went to the garage one day and met Dan, the owner. He seemed nice enough, with long black hair and a goatee. He mentioned he hadn't had customers in a while. He said he could look at my car and call me if he could fix it. I walked home. I had the next 2 days off. Dan called later, saying he fixed the car and would have it done the next day. The price was reasonable. Everything seemed fine. I picked up my car, and it was indeed fixed. A few days later, I was going out to see a friend around 9 p.m. I left my apartment and got into my car in the parking lot. Right after, I heard a noise behind me and felt someone grab me. Surprised, I looked back and saw Dan in my back seat. My instant reaction was to fight him off. I didn't know why or how he was in my car, but he was grabbing my head. I swung my arms back and hit him a few times. As I struggled, Dan moved forward. He didn't have much leverage in the back seat. I tried to pull away and open my door, but he grabbed my arm. I tried to get him off me and started screaming. He tried to cover my mouth, which freed my arm, and I tried to bite his hand. I didn't get a good bite, but it was enough for me to open my door. I broke free and ran from the car as fast as possible. Dan got out and chased me. I ran towards the apartment building, with Dan about 20 feet behind. I wasn't sure if I'd make it inside in time. Then I saw a man standing outside, smoking. I ran towards him. Dan stopped chasing me when I approached the man. I yelled to call 911. The smoking man looked over, saw what was happening, and Dan started running in the opposite direction. I quickly explained to the smoking man. He called the police and waited with me. They arrived quickly. I told them who Dan was and about his shop. It turned out Dan had made a copy of my car key when I had it in the shop. I'm not sure what he planned to do. I'm just really glad I got away. Story 5. Several years ago, I worked at a bar and often finished very late, sometimes after 3 a.m. One night, driving home on the highway, my engine started smoking. I didn't know what was wrong. The car stopped on the side of the road. I was frustrated, tired after a long shift. The engine was still smoking, and the car was completely off. I sat there for a few minutes, and eventually, the smoking stopped. I tried to find my roadside assistance information on my phone, but I was never very organized. As I looked through my phone, I noticed headlights approaching. It was the first car I'd seen on the quiet highway besides mine. As it got closer, it seemed to slow down. It was an old, small car. It passed me, then I saw brake lights, and it pulled over. It felt creepy not knowing who this person could be, but I hoped they were just concerned. Being 3 a.m., I also worried they could be dangerous. I couldn't drive away. The car sat there with its engine running in front of me. I kept watching to see if someone would get out. After about a minute, I alternated between looking at my phone and the car. The suspense was awful. Suddenly, the driver's door opened. A man in a jacket and hood quickly walked to his trunk, opened it, and took out a shovel. I knew this wasn't good. He turned and started walking towards my car, about 30 to 40 yards away. Acting on instinct, I got out of my car, turned, and ran. I sprinted down the side of the road and into a ditch, then into the woods beside the highway. As I ran, I heard the sound of the man hitting something. I glanced back and saw him swinging the shovel at my car. This guy had to be insane. I ran faster into the woods. I knew I needed to call the police. About 50 to 100 yards into the woods, I stopped, caught my breath, and called 911. I continued walking through the thick forest as I spoke to them. My adrenaline was pumping, and I wasn't even cold despite the 35-degree temperature. I kept walking, hoping the man wouldn't find me. After about 10 minutes, the police were arriving at the scene. I turned back towards the highway. Within a few minutes, I saw flashing lights and flagged them down. One patrol car stopped, and the other continued towards my car. I told the officer everything. My car was damaged, with 2 windows smashed. The man's car was still there, but he was gone. I waited in a police car while more officers arrived. Within 20 minutes, they found the man hiding in the same woods I had run through. He had come after me. I have no idea why he attacked me like that. He must have been crazy. I'm just grateful to have made it out of there alive.